The following podcast is sponsored by Structure Tech.
A lot of people have no idea what a home inspection is, how long it takes, what it consists of, who's going to be at their house. Treat this like a really long showing. Assume that the home inspector is going to be there for several hours. The buyers are going to be there. Their parents might come along and clean up your house just the way you would on any other showing.
Welcome everybody to Structure Talk, a Structure Tech presentation. I'm Bill Ulrich alongside our co-hosts Tessa Murray and Reuben Saltzman. And on today's episode, we were going to talk a little bit about the inspection process and not so much exactly what we do, more about managing the whole process, who's involved, how long it takes. This whole thing is a pretty emotional event. It's emotional for the buyers. There's a ton of pressure on them at this point. This is a fulcrum in the process. The sellers, they're worried that something's going to go wrong, and they always want to know, what did you find? And of course, we've got the agents and all of the complexities that are involved with trying to manage the deal. And so today, Reuben, Tessa, I just want to get some feedback from you about this process, how we can make it go better from our perspective, and ideally, what would you like to see? So let's start with you, Tessa. I know you had an interesting inspection last week. Can you just kind of fill us in about what happened and why it might not have been ideal?
I've got stories about how inspections have just... problems, issues that happen that could have been avoided if these agents would have maybe listened to some of these nuggets that we're about to share. Right, Reuben?
Oh, my goodness. Well, there's a whole class that we teach on this, and it's all about making the inspection process go smoother. Well, that's the title of the class. Hassle-free. Thank you. Hassle-free home inspections. Yes. And this class was just developed out of all the problems that we see with the home inspection process. And, well, I should back up a step. Yeah. When I say this class, I'm talking about a CE class for real estate agents. There's 5 different classes that Tessa and I teach, ranging from 4 hours down to 1 hour. Am I saying it right?
Yeah, hassle-free home
Yeah, hassle-free. That's a 2-hour class we teach. Yeah. And we just thought it'd be fun to take a couple of nuggets out of that class and do a podcast on it.
Yeah, and for everybody out there listening, if you're not a real estate agent, CE classes, what does that mean? Well, through Commerce, Minnesota Department of Commerce, real estate agents have to take a certain amount of continuing ed classes each year. And they can get these classes from a variety of sources. But Reuben's developed 4 or 5 different classes here that they can attend and get credit for, good for their continuing ed that Commerce requires.
That's right. Yeah, and we teach those for free. And we teach them at real estate offices all over the Twin Cities. All that we require is a room and the AV equipment and at least a dozen people in attendance.
And Tessa, you had mentioned that, if the agents, if they had a chance to hear this class, they might be able to help manage a very emotional situation a little better. Yeah. I think most agents do a really good job of this. And it's just sometimes there's bigger gaps in between their deals. But you've seen this 1,000 times. There's just such high emotion. Yeah. What happened last week? Because this is a really good story. And this is an oddball story. It doesn't happen all the time. But this is how bad it can get.
Yeah, thank goodness it doesn't happen all the time. I don't know if I could handle being a home inspector, but I show up at the house and the homeowner is still there, the seller's still there, and it is time for the inspection. So of course, ring the doorbell, she answers the door and she's very friendly. She's like, "Oh, come on in." And we all know how that goes, right? And I know that the buyers are going to show up any minute. And so I asked her, I said, "Oh, were you planning on leaving for the home inspection here?" She's like, "Oh, no, I work from home. I'm going to stay home." So then that kind of leads me into explain to her, well, this home inspection, it's going to take about 3 to 4 hours, and the buyers are going to be showing up here any minute with me to go through this house from top to bottom and look at everything and talk about all the... everything that we might find. You can just see her face kind of just drop, like shock. Like, her mouth opens a little bit like, what?
Because nobody told her.
No one told her, is what she said. And she decided still, though, that she wanted to stay there because she had an office and she was working from her home. I said, okay, that's fine. We can't make the seller leave.
Their house after all.
It's their house after all. So I am going through the house with someone who is there shadowing our company another potential inspector. We're down in the basement getting our quick pictures of mechanical systems and everything, just like we do at the beginning. And I hear people talking upstairs, and I'm like, oh shoot, the buyers are here. And I come up the stairs and I see the buyers standing in the front entry holding their coffee, kind of looking, they just got this shocked look and confused look on their face because the seller is there and she's talking to them, right? And it's just this really big awkward moment.
Super
awkward, right? And so I'm like, oh, hey guys, I'm your inspector. Let's just take a step outside real quick. And so we step outside and I explain to them the situation. I'm so sorry. The seller is going to stay here. And they've never bought a house before, so they have no idea what the process is. And
rolling my eyes.
Oh
it
man, yeah. So the buyers were anxious and nervous about that, and I said, I'm still going to go through the inspection like I would. We'll talk about things, but I'll make sure that we're not having those discussions right in front of the seller. But they were still not happy about that. They wanted time in the house alone with me, so we can talk about things freely and not have a seller listening nearby. So they call their agent, and their agent came over about 30 minutes later, and their agent was just so upset that the seller was still there, and why didn't the listing agent tell her, right? So she gets on the phone and calls the listing agent like 3 or 4 times. He doesn't answer. Maybe about an hour later, we're inside the house, and I think the listing agent at that point had listened to his voicemails and knew that the buyers were very upset and the agent was upset. And so the seller comes out of her back office, and you can tell she's kind of scrambling. She's a little bit upset, and she's like, well, I'm getting out of here. How long is this going to take? And, and I'm like, well, we're scheduled to be here. Yeah, she's mad at me.
The 3-hour process.
She's mad at me. And I'm like, well, we're going to be here for another, couple hours. And I said, I can text you when we're done, so I said, but, we're scheduled to be here from 8 to noon. And she's like, okay. So she left. And at that point, then the seller's agent tells the buyer's agent, hey, I'm coming over. I don't know why. And the buyer's agent is there, and she's like, why? No, he doesn't need to come here. Why is he coming here? So next thing we know, he shows up and he's at the house. And now we're down in the basement. We've finished the entire exterior and interior. We're down in the basement. And he starts asking what I found and what are the problems.
In front of the buyers?
No, they were in the other room, and so was the agent. And so he's got me isolated, and he wants to know what's going on. And he's very aggressive. Kind of pushy. And I said, I can't tell you those things. I said, but you can talk to Kathy, who's right here, and she can tell you what, anything that she wants to share with you. And I could see he was just really upset. And I was like, I can tell you, though, that there's nothing that's an immediate safety hazard that I would notify the seller about. Like, we didn't find any gas leaks. We didn't find anything that's going to blow up the house or super dangerous, and just to kind of put him at ease, settle him down a little bit. So we're kind of going through that process, and it also too, we have Joe from Drain Busters there trying to find the sewer clean out in the basement, which has been finished over. So we've got both buyers, the buyer's agent, me, the guy shadowing, Joe from Drain Busters, and the seller's agent all standing in this tiny little basement, and it's just terrible. And we get outside, and the seller's agent the seller's agent was like, well, she told me that you guys didn't find anything. There's no problems there. There's no problems. So, that's great. And then the buyers were like, wait, what? You told him that there weren't any problems? And it's just like one thing after another snowballing,
They're
right? You get it.
The
story goes on and on. Yeah. But I mean,
that's why they shouldn't be there.
The buyers were upset. They were really frustrated that this agent was there, was very pushy, was, interacting with everything. They were upset that the seller was there. The whole thing. She came back at noon, and we were still there, and you should have seen the look on her face.
Well, I can imagine that this was like in the encyclopedia of how to have a very contentious morning.
Oh man,
it looks like this. But when we come back, we're gonna talk a little bit about the classes that you both teach and how we can help educate people. This feels like an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure.
Yes,
all day long.
Oh yes.
You're listening to Structure Talk. I'm your host, Bill Ulrich, and we'll be right back. Hi everyone, Bill Ulrich from Structure Talk. We talk a lot about maintenance on the podcast. If you're like me, I'd rather be doing anything other than maintaining my house. Problem is, my neglectful nature can bring unexpected surprises. So what's a fantasy football fan like me to do? Punt! That's why I recommend Cura Home Maintenance. They actually like home maintenance, and they're happy to do it for you. For a couple dollars a day, they'll keep your home on track. They free you up to enjoy your weekends. Check them out at curahome.com. That's K-U-R-A home.com. Got to get back to the game. Welcome back to Structure Talk. I'm Bill Ulrich alongside Tessa Murray and Reuben Saltzman. And before we went to the break, Tessa told us a very uncomfortable story about a very uncomfortable situation. So I'm sitting here thinking, well, what could we have done better, or how could this have been better to be a more successful morning?
You know, this is something that we cover in our classes, and this is a message to any real estate agents who are selling houses, is remember that even though you've probably done tons of transactions and you know what home inspections are all about, don't make the assumption that your customer has ever gone through a home inspection. Assume that your home seller knows nothing about it. So often we show up to houses and they say, you're like an appraiser, right?
Yeah.
You're going to be here for 15 minutes in and out. They have a lot of people have no idea what a home inspection is, how long it takes, what it consists of, who's going to be at their house. Yeah. And really what it comes down to is treat this like a really long showing. Yeah. Assume that the home inspector is going to be there for several hours. The buyers are going to be there. The parents might come along and clean up your house just the way you would on any other showing. Yeah. Treat this like a really long showing.
Well, I think that language is important because people understand the language of their world. And listing agents, when they're talking to their clients, we have a showing set up. They all get it. They understand it versus a home inspection. It brings it into the world that they understand. So I like that you use that language.
Yeah, I mean, and home sellers, they've hopefully been coached up by their agent to know what you do with your house when you have a showing. You use the same language, do the same thing, find something to do, get out of the house for 3 hours, 4 hours, whatever. And that's another topic that we cover in our classes is how long does a home inspection take? Yeah.
And well, how long does a home inspection take?
Well, it's Tessa's favorite answer to everything. Yeah.
Here we go. It depends.
Boom.
Can you put some brackets around that?
Yeah, it depends. You know, I would say if you're an agent and you're wondering how long it's going to take, talk to your inspector because it depends on the age of the house. It depends on the size of the house. It also depends, too, on if you're going to have your clients or the buyers there for the whole inspection. At our company, we encourage the buyers to be there for the whole thing so that we can go through the whole house with them, answer any questions that they have. But if you've got someone who's really nervous, who has a lot of questions about things, it might take a little bit longer, right?
Oh, and what if it's an engineer?
Yeah, our favorite. Our favorite, yeah.
You could just double the inspection time right there.
Yeah. Don't be nice.
No, I love engineers. I'm not saying there's anything wrong.
Questions. But they do.
But I like to joke. And an engineer is never satisfied with your answer until they can explain it back to you. And then they're satisfied. Yeah. No, I love engineers.
Yeah, so it depends. But we say roughly 2 to 4 hours. And it depends.
Is that a square footage thing? Is that a age of the home thing?
All of it.
No, it's all those things. And condition of the house.
Yes.
That's another huge one. Mm-hmm. I mean, you can take the same size house, same age of house, but two very different conditions. One inspection might take you twice as long. Yeah. Another one is additions. Every time there's an addition, I feel like that's going to add another half hour on your inspection because it means you may have a separate heating system. You might have a crawl space. You might have a different attic.
Yeah. Another electrical panel. Yes. All those things take time.
And we can't predict this stuff. When we just quote prices over the phone, we can't dig into all that. Yeah. I'm so envious of single man operator home inspection companies who don't have any standard pricing. And it's like, well, I charge whatever I feel like it's going to be. Yeah. And then they can ask all these questions and really get into what it's going to be. We can't do that.
Yeah.
So you had mentioned talking to the agent. Do you ever have communications with sellers, selling agents? Do you ever make a phone call to them to have any?
As a home inspector, I'm not. At our company, our client care coordinators take care of all of that stuff, all of the scheduling, all of the emails that go out, all the information. So we send out an email to the listing agent before the inspection explaining the whole process, how long it's going to take, when it's scheduled, and to make sure that all of these things are made accessible for the home inspector as well, like attic accesses, electrical panels, furnaces, to make our inspection go smoother. And they're supposed to pass that along to their client, the seller, correct?
Yeah. But I mean, there's an acronym, and I heard about this from another real estate agent, which is RDR. Realtors don't read. Yeah. We didn't make that one up. That's somebody else who told me that. I think a lot of these emails, I mean, realtors probably get hundreds, maybe thousands of emails a day. I can't imagine how much stuff they get. And I think a lot of them just don't read all of it. And for the ones that do, are they going to choose to pass it on to the seller? And if they pass it on to the seller, does the seller actually read it? I mean, I think it happens about 1% of the time.
Yeah.
So, Tessa, you don't have a normal contact with a selling agent. That's just all takes care of things behind the scenes. Okay, Reuben, ideally, who would you like to see at the home inspection and why?
Well, in a perfect world, the buyers would be there for the entire time, or maybe they show up a half hour after we show up. I mean, our first half hour there is usually kind of turn stuff on, turn on all the lights, figure out where everything terminates, walk on the roof. We get all that done, and then the buyer shows up. And ideally, they'll be there for the rest of the time, and we'll do it all together. We tell them what we're doing. We show them how stuff works. There's a lot of interaction. They ask a lot of questions. And sometimes the buyer's parents will be there. Sometimes it's better if the buyer's parents aren't there. They can be a huge distraction. It's best if you don't have a ton of other family members coming there. Sometimes buyers will like to have contractors come through at the same time. They want to do some big gut remodel. That's fine. We don't control the transaction, but it definitely is distracting. And it's where we lose our clients for about 45 minutes. And then we got to go back through and catch them up on everything. And it takes away from what they're paying us for. So in a perfect world, it would just be the buyers there. And definitely not the sellers.
Yeah.
Definitely not the listing agent. However, if the listing agent is just going to sit in one room and watch the house and just, hang out and do their thing, I don't have a problem with that. If they're just going to remove
the listing
themselves.
agent?
Yep.
Yeah, because we've seen that on some of these high-end houses. The showings have to be under the supervision of the listing agent. So that's a pretty unique situation.
Yeah, it doesn't happen a lot. But the one I will never forget is the one where the listing agent was there. He just sat in the kitchen. He stayed out of the way. And I was about to start the dishwasher. And he said, oh, wait, hold on before I turn it on. He said, that's where the sellers keep their laptops. And so he pulled all the laptops out of the dishwasher.
What?
Yeah.
Wow,
yes.
he saved you from
disaster. And so, this was a very long time ago. And what I learned there was always look inside the dishwasher before you turn it on. Same thing with an oven. Yeah, always check. So I was really glad he was at that inspection.
Oh my gosh. Who stores their laptop in a dishwasher?
They thought it was a secure spot. They didn't want their laptops getting stolen on showing.
When we come back, we're going to dig into a little bit about the classes themselves and some of the content that you guys are presenting to help make everybody's lives a lot easier. You're listening to Structure Talk. I'm your host, Bill Ulrich, alongside home inspector extraordinaire Reuben Saltzman and building science guru Tessa Murray.
Hi, everybody. Reuben Saltzman here with the Structure Talk podcast. We talk a lot about education on our podcast because this is one of our core values here at Structure Tech. To prove how important this is to us, we actually teach free continuing education classes to real estate agents all over the Twin Cities. We've been doing this for years, and we have classes ranging from 1 to 4 hours in length. These classes are taught by both me and Tessa. And if you're interested in having us come out to teach at your office, all you need to do is visit our website, click on the Education tab, and you can see instructions on how to get us out to your office. And you can also see a calendar of upcoming events. If you're interested in having us come out, please visit our website at structuretech1.com.
Okay, welcome back, everybody. Bill Ulrich here alongside Tessa Murray and Reuben Saltzman. And we've just been talking about some classes that have been developed by Structure Tech to help agents meet some of their continuing ed obligations. So, Reuben, can you tell me briefly just what classes are available and how long they are?
Sure. We've got a 1-hour class on water intrusion. This is all about stucco homes and looking at water lines and figuring out where water comes into the walls.
Stucco only?
It's focused on stucco, but we also talk about vinyl siding and wood siding and stone veneer.
Okay.
It's basically water intrusion. So that's a 1-hour class. Another 1-hour class is new construction, where it's just a bazillion slides of stuff that we've found that has gone wrong on new construction homes. And after you sit through this class, you would never consider having your clients buy a new construction home without getting a home inspection. I mean, that's really what it is to let people know all the stuff that can go wrong. The 2-hour class we've been digging into, that's hassle-free home inspections. The 3-hour class, gosh, this has got to be one of my favorite classes of all time, is the old houses class. And I have morphed this into a class for home inspectors now. And I thought I could cut it down to 2 hours. Oh no, it's a 4-hour class when I teach home inspectors. But that one is fantastic. It's everything related to old houses.
Yeah, there's plenty of stock in Minneapolis, St. Paul.
Yeah. The last one is a 4-hour class called Home Inspection Horrors. And that's just all the most common home inspection stuff that we find. And it's digging into home inspection myths. It's covering all the stuff that people say is a big deal, and we're explaining why it's really not. And then in some cases, vice versa. We're taking things that sometimes people just kind of brush over. They say, well, that's not a big deal. And we're saying, well, actually, it really is a big deal, and here's why. So it's kind of busting a lot of home inspection myths.
Great. And so, Tessa, you've been teaching these for about the last year. What's your favorite class?
Well, I like teaching the hassle-free home inspections. I also like teaching the new construction defects. That's a fun one. And the water intrusion one is fun too. You know, there's a lot of good information in the home inspection horrors and the old homes class, but a 4-hour class is a really long class. It's a lot, isn't it?
That's a marathon class.
It is a marathon class.
By the end of that class, I'm ready to go home.
Me too.
Go relax and take a throat lozenge. Seriously.
Losing your throat after 4 hours.
So, Tessa, you mentioned that there was actually somebody riding along with you last week. Kind of talk about that a little bit, because education's a big part of this company.
Yes.
It's kind of a core value. What did you do for that particular person?
Yeah, well, so at our company, if you are a home inspector looking to become a home inspector, you can go on our website and we offer training. So you can shadow our inspectors on an inspection, and you can do it once, you can do it twice, however many times you want. But we had a guy who was interested in becoming a home inspector who wanted to see what we do, who was just with me that day.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Sounds good. And Reuben, I had one more question, kind of going back to the buyers being at the inspection. I assume this is something that's evolved over time. Maybe you have always done it this way, or is this something that you decided as you became more and more involved in the home inspection business that I need these people there the whole time? So tell me, what's the evolution of that, at least at Structure Tech?
It certainly did evolve. Back in 97 or so, we used to have our clients show up for about the last hour, but when people were showing up at the beginning of the inspection, it seemed as though people were getting a lot more value out of being there the entire time. And those were really the people who were the happiest with our services. And at some point, something just kind of clicked for us, and we started realizing people learn a lot more when they're there the entire time. And
because
this is how they get the most value.
It's not an industry standard by any stretch.
No, it isn't. I think the majority of home inspectors have their clients show up at the very end of the inspection. And from a home inspection perspective, it would make my life easier to just have clients show up at the very end. I mean, we don't do this for ourselves. This is absolutely a client-driven procedure.
Yeah, that's a great point that you brought that up, Bill, because when we're teaching this hassle-free home inspection class, we're talking about who should be there, when they should show up. Most agents are surprised, if they haven't worked with us before, that we actually want the buyers there for the whole thing, or, after the first 30 minutes.
Yeah, I assume you hear that a lot. It's like, well, maybe I'll start doing that now.
Yeah,
a lot of raised eyebrows.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So is there anything else you want to add to this that you think would be valuable, that would help an agent make their business model more efficient?
All right, one more is agent attendance at the inspection. Should the agent come to the inspection or not? The one who's representing the buyers. Yeah, and I'd say you're more than welcome to come to any home inspection. I know I've read articles out there saying agents shouldn't come, and these are written by attorneys who are scared of agents getting sued for saying something inappropriate at the inspection. I'd say as long as you have appropriate behavior and you're not going to be the inspector and contradict the inspector and try to kind of steer things towards the deal going through, and you're just going to be objective, by all means, come to the inspection.
It's a great learning opportunity too if you're a new agent, just to learn about a house so that you can help, find your buyers the best house for them in the future.
Well, I imagine. As a home inspector, when I was doing it, I don't do home inspections any longer, but you learn something every day. Every day there's some new nugget that you can pick up. And so I think it's valuable for any agent to be there during the the process. So you've been listening to Structure Talk, a Structure Tech presentation. Thank you, and we'll catch you next time.
For more information on how we can provide you with the right information about your home before you buy or sell, contact us at structuretech1.com. For more information on how we can provide you with the right information about your home before you buy or sell, contact us at structuretech1.com.